Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna tell you what Amish church I am from and what that type of church is. I am from the Old Order Amish church. Basically what that means is I am from the strictest Amish church there is in the entire world. And I was a preacher's daughter, so you can imagine what a strict life I was living for 18 years. So basically, well, some Amish churches are allowed to have some types of technology, some types of electricity. We are not allowed to have any of that. That means no cars, no phones, no TVs, nothing. You couldn't even have cameras because we weren't allowed to take our pictures because they believe that it's a sin. So like, nobody has their baby pictures, or nobody knows what they looked like when they were a child or a baby or anything like that. We do have mirrors, so if you want to know what you look like, you can look in the mirror, but you don't know what you look like as a baby or anything like that. Or like if you get older, you don't remember what you looked like when you were younger. And since we didn't have electricity, we also didn't have light bulbs. So we would have to use kerosene lamps in the house, and then we would use lanterns in the barn when it got dark. We were allowed to use candles, but for the most part, we just used them for the same reason we use them out here, simply for the scent. And for the most part, we made our own candles. And another thing, that also means no plumbing. Indoor, outdoor, it's no plumbing, period. So we can't have bathrooms. We have outhouses. And as you can imagine, that sucks, especially since I'm now used to having a bathroom and indoor plumbing and all of that. I don't know how I lived without it for so long. Without technology, that meant we had to use horses to do any type of field work or harvesting. And we had to milk the cows and goats by hand. I also don't miss that part. To go anywhere, we had to use horse and buggy. We were allowed to travel by train or bus, depending on how far away it was, but we cannot fly or travel by plane. We could hire non-Amish drivers to take us to like the train stations or to the city for emergencies. But for emergency, I mean like life or death, because we don't go to the doctors unless we're dying or almost dying. Like it has to be really bad for somebody to go to the doctor. So if you hear that somebody's in the hospital, you know it's really bad. We do have running water, but we have to physically pump it into the house because it comes from a very deep cistern on our farm. Well, all Amish churches have a lot of rules. The Old Order Amish church has more rules than any of them. They also have rules about how far apart your seams can be in your dresses or in like the men's shirts. But the women's dresses have more rules than any other form of clothing. They have a lot of like very strict rules, like the pleats in your caps, head coverings, or the pleats in your dresses, how far they can be apart. And if they're too far apart, you get in trouble. And if they're too close together, you get in trouble too. The head coverings, if your pleats are too fine, you get in trouble. Which I got into trouble quite a bit because I didn't like how it looked when they were too wide. So I would try to make them as narrow and as fine as possible. And as you can imagine, that always got me into trouble. They also have rules about how tight your head covering can be tied. The tighter the better, because it can't be too loose or you get in trouble, which to have it tied tighter, it feels weird. It doesn't feel good. And the men's hats, they have to be the brim going around, it has to be like straight. It can't be bent like a cowboy hat. It can't be bent like that or they get in trouble, which you'll see quite a bit of Amish guys who like to bend their hats that way because of it. But that's anybody in general though, like all the Amish people. Okay, that's just people in general. People will always see how much they can get away with. And for the Amish bonnets, your face can't come out the front, or that's another thing you can get in trouble for. And then the seams on the side of the bonnets, they can't be too narrow or too wide. Same thing, you could get in trouble. Also, you can't wear these plastic glasses because you get into trouble. As you can see, it's so much more than just not having technology or electricity. It's so much more. And I am so glad to not constantly be criticized on small things like that. Like, who even notices that stuff? Out here, you would never notice how far somebody's seams or pleats are apart. And if you did, that would be really weird. All those little rules is what I like the most about not being Amish anymore. Not having to worry about the bishop coming to talk to you because your pleats or your seams are a little too wide or a little too narrow. It's just too much. It's too much, man. And with me being the preacher's daughter, it was even more stricter for me than for most people. Because we had to be a good example for the rest of the people. Like, if the preacher's trying to keep order in his own church, he has to have his family, his daughters, his kids, and his wife in order first. That's what it's like, because then you're held to a higher standard because you have to be an example for everybody else. I miss my family and my friends, but I so do not miss the church, the rules, all of that. I just don't miss it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to hear more of my story. And also follow me on TikTok at IdaMachiba1 and on Instagram at IdaChooseHappiness. I will be posting videos and answering some questions on both of those platforms as well.